Okay, we're on the way.
We're on our way to Poland.
First
My
leg
daughter
of
goes
the
to camp
Grosfeld
in
8
on the
mission
Depot 1.
with Marla and Bill and Fred. Jennifer was the only one that got hanging out here, waiting to get on the plane to Amsterdam.
Any time of day.
And we're about to leave for Israel.
Unbelievable. That's what the big deal is.
They were stopped off in Amsterdam here.
They used to call me Laser. That's the name that my mother and my family used to call me when I was a little boy 70 years ago.
To listen to music of Chopin. Whoever was caught by doing so was taken to Auschwitz or any other camps. It's very Polish music. By the time the ghetto walls were created, were expelled from here, moved to the big ghetto, moved for another few months.
Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleh.
But then there was a need to differ Polish fighters from Germans.
We're here in a nice Polish restaurant here in Poland, in Warsaw. Got the salmon coming out.
I smell the salmon. I'm supposed to tell them about the so I better read something about it. And it went like this.
Street executions, terrorizing people, collecting radios, printing, propaganda letters, just trying to control Warsaw.
Were used as a source for building roads. Like in my hometown, the Germans took every stone and built runways for planes. The Nazis burned all the records of the cemeteries, so no one knows exactly how many are buried here. They estimate there are about 300,000 graves in terms of... Because this I owe to Scott Kaufman. We're going to say a few words about his favorite hero, whose name was Janusz Korczak. I'll tell you about him and we'll get there. He wouldn't see where the family is. Real name was Herschel Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt, a Jewish name, Goldsmith. But then he adopted a Polish name, Janusz Korczak. He was one of the greatest educators, writer, and he became a director of a Jewish orphanage in the Warsaw Ghetto. His life was dedicated to save orphans, Jewish children. And in the Warsaw, I want to read a story about, a few words, about the 200 children of Janusz Korczak orphanage. They came to this very place. So a Jewish writer by the name of Perler was here and stood, and he describes his words were found out afterwards in a...
It was a procession the like of which no human eye has ever witnessed. They were going to their death with eyes full of contempt for their murderers. Seeing Korczak, the policeman jumped to attention and saluted him. The German asked, "Who is that man?" At this point, I could no longer contain myself. With both hands, I tried to hide the stream of tears running from my eyes. I sobbed and cried as I stood there, helplessly watching this cold-blooded murderer. They all went to Treblinka.
That the Jews are not going for a resettlement. They knew for sure that all those that leave the ghetto are going to die. At that time, there were 60,000 Jews still in the ghetto, waiting for the next deportation that was supposed to take place January 1943, upon an order given by the Nazis. But at that time, Jewish fighting organizations were organized in the ghetto. And the leader, one of the leaders, was a young man of 23 years old, called Mordechai Anilevich. He took effective control of the entire ghetto. He was not the only one leader, but
Why did the world stand mute to a cry for help? On April 26, 1943, Mordechai Anilevich, commander of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, wrote his last letter to the outside
world. They all
world.
come here. That's a project sponsored by the Israel Ministry of Education. Look at this. Look at the difference between that one Yeah, they get 7 people in one room. Hand grenades, proud, standing and ready. Am Israel Chai. Am Israel, Am Israel, Am Israel.
If you want to have the full breakfast, you really need to be like,
6:30, already waiting by the door.
7 a.m.
No.
7 a.m. for a full breakfast. If you just want
porcelain cup with a piece of cloth on top, with a string to secure it. She says to me, take this with you. You will have a sweet life. You will survive. And again, the word Bashir is mentioned again. And I didn't want to take anything. I said, I don't need anything. But I saw in her eyes that my mother meant for me to have this cup. And I said, what is inside? Don't look at it. Take it with you. But I wanted to see. I was so curious. So I moved the string to the side. And I was shocked. Of all things, the cup was full with honey. Where did my mother get the honey? In a ghetto? I hadn't seen any for a long time, and I love honey. I took the cup, shaking hands, said goodbye to my mother, and this number, this name, I had to remember every minute of the day. If not, I'm finished because
from the Sephardic Jews was written by Joseph Caro. It's called Shulchan Aruch, and Shulchan Aruch, which was called the table. It was the codification of the ritual codification of the Sephardic law. Moses Isserles wrote the commentaries to Shulchan Aruch, which is called Mapa. Mapa
saying is the difference between the Ashkenazi type of synagogues and the Sephardic. In the Ashkenazi synagogue, this is the example of Ashkenazi. The seats look like an
unusual. You go to the cemeteries in Poland, the masevas are spread very chaotic way. They are surrounded. They are situated. They are spread out. The chief of Krakow Yeshiva and the rabbi of Krakow for 30 years. He became a rabbi of Krakow in 1542, and he was the head of the local yeshiva.
And free of Polish intelligentsia, Polish leadership. So 600,000 Jewish people were supposed to be resettled to set you free. It was not unusual for Germans to install the same inscription in many other concentration camps.
They had PhDs, more in that room than people.
Wagon human ashes in Birkenau. If we think of this place as a cemetery, every little piece of ground is a little cemetery, is a little... I cannot even call this. We just cannot avoid walking on human ashes. When you look under your feet, you will see pieces of human bones until today.